Willow angrily crashes Michael and Sasha's wedding. ABC General Hospital spoilers. The picturesque chapel was adorned with white roses and soft golden lighting, creating an ethereal ambience as guests filled the pews for Michael and Sasha's highly anticipated wedding. The day seemed perfect, the culmination of a love story celebrated by Port Charles's elite. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of joy and romance, a storm was brewing, and it had a name: Willow Tate. Willow sat in her car outside the chapel, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. Her heart pounded as she stared at the grand entrance, the muffled sound of a string quartet floating through the air. Memories of her relationship with Michael flooded her mind, their laughter, their shared dreams, and the bond they had once nurtured. Now, all of it seemed like a cruel joke. He had moved on, and, with Sasha of all people, Willow's chest tightened as anger and heartbreak collided within her. Inside the chapel, Michael Corinthos stood at the altar, his tailored suit fitting him perfectly. His face bore a mixture of nervousness and happiness as he waited for Sasha to walk down the aisle. Sasha, radiant in her intricately beaded gown, was the picture of a glowing bride as she prepared to make her entrance. The guests whispered amongst themselves, commenting on how perfect the couple seemed. But perfection was a fragile illusion. Willow's heels clicked against the stone pavement as she approached the chapel doors, her breath quick and shallow. She hadn't planned to come. In fact, she had resolved to stay away, to let Michael and Sasha have their day. But something inside her snapped when she saw the wedding announcement on social media that morning. The image of Michael and Sasha smiling, their hands intertwined, was too much to bear. She had to confront him, to say her piece, no matter the consequences. The door swung open with a resounding creak, silencing the room. All heads turned as Willow stepped inside, her fiery gaze fixed on Michael. The murmurs began immediately, a ripple of confusion and intrigue spreading through the crowd. Sasha froze mid-step, her bouquet trembling in her hands as she locked eyes with Willow. Michael's expression shifted from joy to shock. "Willow," he said, his voice barely audible over the hushed gasps of the guests. Willow's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Surprised to see me, Michael?" she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Willow, what are you doing here?" Sasha asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and frustration. Willow ignored her, her focus solely on Michael. "I tried to stay away. I really did. But I couldn't let this farce go on without saying something." "Farce," Michael repeated, his brow furrowing. "What are you talking about?" Willow took a step closer, her voice rising. "You're standing up there, about to marry Sasha, pretending like everything is fine. But it's not fine, Michael. You know it, and I know it." The room was silent, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone present. Carly Corinthos, sitting in the front row, exchanged a worried glance with Sunny. Nina Reeves, seated a few rows back, looked torn between concern for Sasha and fascination with the unfolding drama. "Willow, this isn't the time or place," Michael said, his voice firm but tinged with desperation. "If you have something to say, we can talk later." "No," Willow said, shaking her head. "We're going to talk now. Because if I don't say this, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Sasha stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "You're ruining my wedding, Willow. Whatever issues you have with Michael, they're not my problem." Willow's gaze snapped to Sasha. "Not your problem? You think you can just waltz in and take over like none of it matters? Like I don't matters?" "Willow, stop," Michael interjected, his voice rising. "This isn't about you, isn't it?" Willow shot back. "We shared something real, Michael. And you threw it away for this?" She gestured toward Sasha, her voice cracking with emotion. The tension in the room was palpable. Sasha's hands balled into fists, her composure slipping. "You need to leave. Now." "Not until I've said what I came here to say," Willow replied, her tone defiant. She turned back to Michael, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I loved you, Michael. I still do. And I can't stand by and watch you make a mistake that will ruin both of our lives." Michael's jaw tightened, his emotions warring within him. He glanced at Sasha, whose face was a mask of hurt and anger, then back at Willow. "You don't get to decide what's right for me," he said, his voice steady but pained. "This is my life, my choice." "And what about Wiley's?" Willow asked, her voice trembling. "Have you thought about how this will affect him? How confusing it will be for him to see you with someone else?" At the mention of Wiley, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Michael's face darkened, his protective instincts flaring. "Don't bring Wiley into this," he warned. "He's already in this," Willow argued. "He deserves stability, Michael. He deserves a family that's whole." Sasha's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "That's enough. You've made your point, Willow. Now leave." Willow hesitated, her resolve wavering. She looked around the room, at the shocked and judgmental faces of the guests, and felt a pang of regret. But her anger and heartbreak were too raw, too consuming to back down completely. "I hope you're happy, Michael," she said, her voice heavy with bitterness. "I hope you don't wake up one day and realize you made the biggest mistake of your life." With that, she turned on her heel and stormed out, the chapel doors slamming shut behind her. The room remained silent, the weight of her words lingering in the air. Michael exhaled deeply, his shoulders sagging under the weight of the confrontation. Sasha's eyes filled with tears as she looked at him, searching for reassurance. "Michael," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Do you want to do this? Do you still want to marry me?" Michael's gaze met hers, his expression conflicted. He glanced at the guests, at his family, and finally back at Sasha. The answer hung in the balance, the future of their relationship teetering on the edge. Outside, Willow leaned against her car, her chest heaving with sobs. She had said her piece, but at what cost? The man she loved was slipping further away, and she was left to grapple with the aftermath of her actions. Back inside the chapel, the tension reached its breaking point as Michael took a deep breath and prepared to speak, the fate of the wedding hanging on his next words.